not even gonna lie, chat. I walked into 7-Eleven. I said, can I get 60 on number 3? And they're like, yeah. Gave her the money, hopped in my car, drove off. Came back around. Luckily, no one took the fucking pump.
Let's go to DJ.
This video is a little bit different from what I usually post, but you know, this is a very important video that I feel like I need on my feed, especially to honor my grandfather. My grandfather recently passed away last year, and I wanted to talk about the sacrifices that he's made to get me to where I'm at, you know, and what they pretty much went through. The sacrifices that they made were happiness, and they had to sacrifice a lot of their financial income and, you know, support me even in ways that I was doubting myself. As a kid, you know, as a child, I was someone that always looked for validation to do better. You know, so I wouldn't change, I wouldn't do anything differently unless, you know, someone encouraged me to. I knew what was better for myself, but I just didn't do it. They couldn't have children, you know, my grandmother couldn't have children. She had too many health problems, and I was essentially their angel from heaven that was given to them, you know, and they had the chance to adopt me at one point in my life, and that's when their life, you know, got better, you know, and had the pros and cons of course, having a child. How I looked at my grandfather, you know, he was my hero, and he was somebody that I've always wanted to become and look up to, you know, when I got older, or, you know, he was always somebody that I wanted to be like, you know, because I would idolize him and who he was, because he had such a good soul. Sorry, camera turned off. He had very good intention as a person, and you know, he always knew that nobody was perfect, and he was always the type to give everyone second chances. You know, they have taught me that even if you make a mistake or you fail at something, you can always do better, because a mistake will always teach you what you can do better for the next time. And that's something that I had to learn, you know, very, very hard. And I was given chance after chance, you know, over 1,000 chances at least, you know, of just not being a good grandson in general, of how a normal grandson would be, especially from coming from a toxic household. I gave that off to them, and I came from a toxic childhood, and when they adopted me, I passed that on to them, you know, and I treated them like how I got treated, like shit. And they never gave up on me, you know. They always knew, like, you have the potential of changing, we're just waiting on that to, you know, we're just waiting on the reality to hit you. Life has been very, very difficult, especially without my grandfather, especially because he was my figure and my only father figure. You know, I disappointed my grandparents a lot, and you know, I dropped out of school in 9th grade, and I stayed back twice. So essentially I was supposed to be 11th grade or a senior, and I was in 9th grade, you know, and how embarrassing is that? And that disappointed them even more, because they wanted to see me graduate. No matter what route you choose in your life, we're gonna support you. And that was something that I needed to feel, because that's not something that I've received any part of my life until I've met them, was somebody to support every single decision that I make. And I truly believe that a child, a kid, a teenager needs to learn on their own fuck-ups. Especially living in this generation, need to learn on our own, our right from our wrongs. I reached my first 5-figure month, you know, $10,000 month, the same month that my grandfather passed away. He was always going in and out of the hospital, and you know, this specific week he was in and out too many times, you know, and I've showed up, you know. So that month that he was going in and out of that hospital, you know, I would take him. One specific day that have stuck in my head, you know, and this is a very, very important day, I feel like, because I talked to him and I asked him, you know, I said, you know, Pops, are you scared of death? Like, are you scared of dying? And he told me yes. And I said, you know, what specifically are you scared of? And, you know, he just told me like he was not ready to leave. He told me that he wanted to stay down here with my grandmother and enjoy their time just a little bit more. First time out of a long time that he's actually shared with me his emotions, because he's not somebody that just, you know, opens up like that or tells people how he really feels, you know, or what's going on with him. He's the type to just let the pain eat away at him, and that's it. So this video, essentially, I just want to say, like, all you need in your life is somebody to believe in you. Somebody to believe in you when you don't even believe in yourself. And what keeps me going is not only God, because that's number one, of course, but the day before my grandfather died, I was talking to him, and I had a feeling in my heart, like a sunken feeling, that his time was very, very soon. And we as humans, we don't know an exact deadline. And I gave him a specific hug, and how he hugged me back felt like he was going to pass away the very next day, and I was pretty much crying in his shoulders, and while he's in so much pain, he's rubbing my back, trying to comfort me. I told him on that day, and I said, I know exactly why you're still here, and I know what's making you stay on and hold on to the rope, but trust me, you can let go. After I told him that exact words, he started to like tear up, and I could tell that he quickly stopped once I noticed, and I knew that he was in so much pain. And I told him, Pops, you're scared of leaving us, me and my grandmother, because you're scared of what we're gonna do and how we're gonna live. And I promise you, just let go, just return home, and everything will be okay. But just make me one promise. And at this point, he was speaking like gibberish, but I could still kind of understand him. So he was basically trying to ask me, like, what do you need? And I told him, and I said, I will be here tomorrow morning, and I want you to wait for me. Wait for me to be here tomorrow morning. Do not leave. On that same night, he promised me. And the very next day, I woke up late. Well, very, very weird. I've never woken up late like that ever. On that specific day, I woke up at 11 o'clock. And, the morning was almost done. And I was like, all right, well, I wasn't thinking too much of it, And my grandmother called me crying. And, I already knew what she was going to tell me. I prayed to God, and I was in the shower for at least an hour, and I didn't know what emotions to feel, whether it was angry, happy, or sad. The specific thing that bothers me from, when he passed away was when I saw him on his bed, when he was already gone, and God took him. I know the exact color that he saw last, which is the ceiling. The last thing he saw, and you can't imagine the last words he's heard or the last things he said. Never will know what is your last, your last say, your last word, your last conversation, your last emotion, your last color that you'll see, and my grandfather was a good guy, and he was the biggest role model that I have in my life. God being first, and him being the second person in my life that has ever taught me right from wrong. And I didn't want to make this video, to get emotional or get people to feel anything from me, but I needed this video to be made to actually capitalize on my feelings, just bury the hatchet of me suffering in these feelings without sharing it, but I feel like now that it's shared and it's posted online, no matter if only one person see this or hundreds of people do, just be thankful that you're alive, and enjoy your life. And always understand that for as long as you're living, God will bless you more and more. Just, keep your faith in God, and everything will work out.